In the Fuzzy Memories podcast, we celebrate the good, the rad, and the fugly of the 80s and 90s.
We're three latchkey kids who made it out alive.
And in each episode, we break down all the culture that popped, 1 year at a time.
Whether it's the birth of legends...
I'm Lyme disease free today, and I have Whitney Houston and MTV to thank. Or audacious moves.
Imagine also the poor Golden Gate Bridge. You turn 75 and people have a party on you.
Yep. I don't want that.
Or even confusing PSAs.
And the stop, drop, and roll. I mean, I assumed
Yes.
as an adult I would catch on fire weekly.
All the time!
We've got a take that will make you laugh.
We've also got thoughts on all sorts of random phenomena and the most unmitigated of golf.
Why sharks can't be trusted, people can't be trusted, and rivers can't be trusted. It's collusion.
Of the highest degree.
Uh-huh.
You were counseling me to start my remarks with, first of all, bitch.
Everyone in that room would have snapped to attention.
It's going to be basically coffee lids, shark revenge, and then maybe like Matt Getz. God, we need to do something about him.
Join us every other Wednesday to celebrate the hits, the misses, and the misfits of the weirdest decades.
If I could tell my 14-year-old self from 1990 that I would be eating in a Cheesecake Factory in
Beverly Hills.
I'd be like, we did it. We did it, Joe.
We did it.
Listen and subscribe to Fuzzy Memories on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and your favorite podcast platform. Hello, and welcome to Broads and Books. I'm Erin.
And I'm Amy, and this is episode number 71, Not Ready to Make Nice.
Not Ready to Make Nice.
What is this, Erin?
By the Chicks.
By the Chicks.
By the Chicks. And this song is my anthem. I love it so much. It's on every playlist of mine because it is just gritty, in your face. Look, I'm not ready to pretend this is all okay so you feel better.
Yeah.
That's really what it is to me.
This should be on our signatures, email signatures, as we sign off on yet another inane conversation.
Yes.
Via email.
I'm not ready to make nice.
Not ready.
Not ready to make nice. Nope.
So what would you say? This is about picks where people aren't going to back down.
No one is going to back down in these picks. They're saying, no, this is an issue. This is my hill, and I'm going to die on it.
Yeah.
This
and
is
for
where I'm
people,
putting my flag.
for people who may not know, remind people what the story of this song, or the background.
Yeah.
Of this
So
song.
this is the group formerly the Dixie Chicks. They changed their name to the Chicks as recently, but they came under a bunch of fire during the George W. Bush presidency because they said they were embarrassed of him, and this led to widespread outrage in the country. I mean, people were holding parties where they were running over their CDs with bulldozers and steamrollers and stuff. And they went through a period of basically hell where they were getting death threats.
Yeah.
Death threats.
Death threats.
For speaking their mind. Again,
Yeah.
this is an opinion. You don't have to agree with it.
And you don't have to listen to them. If you don't like them anymore, great, don't listen.
No one said it was going to be the national anthem.
No. Although it kind of should be.
It should be.
Yeah.
It should be.
Should be the female national anthem.
It should be.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. But they got a whole bunch of flack for it. It was terrible. And they wrote this song in response.
They sure did.
Hey, guess what? We stand by it. It's our opinion. We're not ready to make nice.
And what I
We're not ready to back down.
No, we're not.
We're mad as hell.
And now you're just quoting the lyrics.
You betcha. Try not to sing it. Just quote them.
Well, after you suggested this song, I watched the video again because I forgot this song. And what I loved about the video, and we'll link to that, of course, is that there's a very gendered thing going on. It's showing women being tied down and, deemed hysterical for saying their mind, which, damn if that's not what we like to talk about.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Again, this is all because of someone's opinion. This isn't, nobody was saying this was fact.
Yeah.
No one was I don't know, maybe a CDC director that was on national TV saying things that you knew weren't true that would have a profound effect on your children.
Yeah,
it wasn't
imagine
that.
It wasn't that. No.
It wasn't that.
Nope.
No.
This was just a stray comment.
Yeah.
To which people responded, "Shut up and sing or you'll die."
Yeah. shut up and sing. So I don't like what you said, but I like your voice enough that I expect you to keep
and
using
shut up and
it.
look pretty.
Yeah, that's really what's being said, right? So this week we're not ready to make nice.
No, we're not.
Just to be clear,
Yeah.
not ready to make nice.
So Aaron, I've got a question for you.
Yeah.
Have you ever held a grudge, and or are you currently holding a grudge?
Oh God, I love grudges
Grudges
so much.
are great.
I'm really okay. I am quick to pull the grudge card. Like I'm quick to be like, I'm putting on a boycott or I have a grudge. But I can, if you give me time, usually I kind of like back off of it. If you ask Mike, he'll tell you. And one of the many reasons I love that man is because he wholeheartedly supports every grudge I bring to the table without question. That might be out of fear of becoming one of the grudges.
Yeah, but that's also fantastic.
It
He is ride or die.
Yep. I have boycotted clothing stores. I have held grudges against restaurants. I have
Pasta
held
makers.
everything that I can do. And that's where we're
Grudges
at.
can be useful.
Yeah. I still won't eat at Chick-fil-A.
No, good Lord,
Sorry.
no.
Yeah.
And I still will never support Mitch McConnell. I have a whole big grudge against
Well,
him, and that
yeah.
grudge is coming right back in my mind.
That's
It's
justified
coming
in my
right
mind,
back.
for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah. But I think grudges are healthy.
Yeah.
And I think they're important. And
too.
I understand that when I take a grudge or boycott a large chain, that they're not feeling that necessarily in their pocket. But you know what I always say? I vote with my dollars. I vote
Hell
and then I
yeah.
vote with my dollars.
Yes.
And at the end of the day, that means something to me.
Yes.
So that's what I'll do.
And you know, when we were talking about this, it reminds me of Reese Witherspoon on Big Little Lies when she says, I like my grudges. I want to tend to them like little pets.
Yes.
That's what we're doing.
Yes. I like it to grow.
Yes.
I like it to get bigger. I like to find more reasons to add to it.
Reach into the sky and take over.
Yes.
Yeah.
This is a really obscure reference,
Oh.
but do you remember the show King of Queens with
Yeah.
Kevin James and Leah Remini? Okay. On her show, Jerry Stiller played her dad.
Okay.
And he was constantly had a grudge about something. And one of the things was Halloween. And the most iconic memory for me from that show is him walking in the back door and seeing like the big Kit Kats and picking them up and going, "Big Kit Kats, also banned!" And throws them out the back door. Because everything related to Halloween was banned in the house. And like whenever I start a grudge, for some reason I always think of him saying that. Like, "Big Kit Kats, also banned!"
Wow.
Get on the train.
Also, I like that phrase. Whenever I start a grudge, whenever I get ready to grudge the shit out of something.
I like to gather up my thoughts, my big Kit Kats, and
Yeah.
get ready.
Grudges are great.
They
I
are.
agree.
I love
them.
them. So what pushes you over the edge to stand up for something, someone, yourself, hold a grudge?
You know what really sucks, and this is because I think we are taught this way, is that so much more often I will immediately stand up for someone else versus myself.
Absolutely.
And in my mind, like the circumstances will be so much more clear. My reasoning will be so much more clear cut. Like I will have a clear, supportable reason for standing up for this other person. But when it comes to me, I immediately am doubting myself. I'm like, oh no, they didn't mean that. Oh no, it's okay. Like it's fine.
Yes.
But you cut in on someone that I care about. Shit is going down.
I like that.
Yeah.
Scrappy.
Yeah.
But you're right. We're not taught to apply that to ourselves.
I know. I want to be more scrappy for myself.
Yes.
I want to defend myself more.
Yep.
Instead of worrying about if people like me.
I know, but that is a hard balance.
It is really hard. And especially when you're worried about like, family or other people that you have to continue seeing. Like you can't cut these people out of your life. Like you have to find a way to stand up for yourself and respect yourself and respect your dignity. But at the same time, you're worried like, what if they don't like me anymore?
Right. Yeah.
What if I'm disappointing them?
Yes, absolutely. I understand that.
I hate that. Erin, are there issues that people refuse to back down on that you just do not understand?
Yeah, 100%. For me, the ones that always strike me, and I see this on both sides of the aisle, so it's equal opportunity here. When you are so diehard in one corner that you can't even be bothered to listen to logic or reason, I'm immediately suspect of your motives.
Absolutely.
Because no matter how like deep rooted I feel about something, I want to know all sides of it. I want to understand something. And I also think that that might be somewhat of a female perspective, that we want to understand what everyone thinks about something or feels about something.
Like we feel like we have to give time to everyone.
Yes.
Like we have to.
Yes,
exactly.
absolutely. But I also put a lot of value in that, because if you can stand behind it and explain to me why, then that's fine with me. But if you can't, then I have questions as to why you feel that passionate about it.
Yeah.
The example that I can think of right now is I don't understand the mask argument. Like, if you're out in public, you have to wear a mask. It is what it is. I don't understand trying to tell me that's a civil liberty in the United States.
Yeah.
Because last time I checked, you can still talk. So
can
you're
still
not
talk.
muzzled. You can talk through a mask.
Like you've said before, like we hang signs, no shirt, no shoes, no service. People respect that. What the hell is the problem with a freaking mask?
Exactly. You know, I remember distinctly when restaurants said there was no longer going to be smoking in restaurants, because the other people in the restaurant weren't making the choice to get secondhand smoke.
Right.
That was the exact reason for it. And people lost their minds. How dare you? I have a right to smoke everywhere. Now, besides a casino in Vegas, maybe, if you lit up somewhere, people would be
aghast.
Yes. And look how quickly that culture changed.
Yeah.
Same thing with seatbelt law. That was not a thing people were behind. They were like, that's insane. If I want to throw myself through a windshield in a high-speed crash, it's my right.
And all of these are about, like, you know, subjecting yourself to danger and, like, yeah, it's my right to do that. Cool. But how about subjecting others to danger? Because that's what the point of this entire thing is.
Yes, that you don't have that choice or ability.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah,
I cannot, as the more and more, and we're in one of those states where our governor has made some very suspect decisions in this front.
Yes.
And so we're routinely, like, at trips to Costco, seeing people throw freaking tantrums about wearing masks. I know in other states it's not necessarily the same. In other cities, even some of the authors that we've talked to, they've said this is not the situation. But here it is, and I still cannot figure out what is so wrong with people.
I don't think I'll ever understand it. It's just not logical. And people that I have pressed that have mentioned that they don't feel, I don't really think it's necessary. I've pressed and there's no logical reason.
No.
There's nothing.
There's nothing.
And some of their argument seems to be that, oh, well, at first they said not to wear masks. Now they say to wear them. And I think, you know, you're touching your face and all this. Okay. First of all, it's a pandemic, so information is going to ebb and
Everyone
flow.
is learning. We're evolving. Like, knowledge
Absolutely.
is, changing.
And if there's one thing you can do that you know is going to have a profound impact to stop this, guess what? That's going to get you back to your life sooner.
Exactly.
To all your liberties that you love so much.
So much. And isn't there, there's been statements that if we all just wore masks for the next 6 weeks, we could freaking end this thing.
Right.
We could get back to all the world that you're so desperate to return to.
Yes. And if you are so against wearing masks, I assume you are for meth, heroin, cocaine, all of those things being legalized, because how dare someone prevent me from doing damage to myself?
Exactly.
It's a civil liberty for me to shoot up.
It sure is.
You can't pick and choose. You can't pick and choose.
God, people suck.
Also, retake history, because that's not what civil liberties means.
It's
but,
not.
okay, it's not.
No.
Nope. Nope. Also, reread the Constitution. There's a whole thing in there about the greater good. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
Just saying.
I'm just saying. I'm just saying. Speaking of, I'm obviously...
We're coming in hot again.
I'm triggered by this. Do you think that there's value in anger?
God damn right there is. I think that every single bit of progress that we've had in this country, in the world, is fueled by anger. No matter if it's a movement that's clarified as nonviolent or anything, there is anger behind that at the situation. There's anger at the way things are. So yes, anger is a fueling force for change. We need it. Also, it feels good to be angry sometimes.
It does.
And it in some ways, I feel like being angry can help us get past some of the inertia of just sort of letting things be the way they are. They can get us to go out and vote. Anger can fuel us to make changes and to see what's wrong. And so I think it's and especially for women. Women need to own their anger. It's okay to be angry. No matter what I just said about, like, not standing up for myself, I understand that.
Yeah.
I understand
Yes.
that I do that, and I get really annoyed with myself. I get angry at myself. But man, anger for women, it looks damn good. And you got to do it no matter what anybody else says. What do you think?
Yeah, I think the same. I mean, I think it's always the people on the other side saying, why are you so angry? Are the exact reason that we're here. Because you wouldn't listen to me when I wasn't angry. You got me to this point.
Yes.
And then you're surprised that I feel this passionate about it. Because you poked and poked until I exploded. And I also feel like anger is sort of the mask we put on the other feelings that are coming out. To me, anger is the front feeling for fear, frustration, being belittled, being demeaned, being inferior, being treated that way, being discriminated against. Anger is sort of the front that has to take the brunt of all of those feelings.
Yes.
Because how else do you express how awful all of those feelings are?
Yes.
The only other way to express it is to get in the fetal position and cry. And nobody's listening to that. They're stepping over you. So what choice do I have but to be angry and show you that I'm angry?
Absolutely.
So
And nothing's going to change if we don't get angry. And we want things to change. So let's get angry.
let's get it. Not ready to make nice. I'm not.
You know, I think that reminds me of cats because cats are always on my mind.
Sure.
So, you know, I think I caught up on some of our recent episodes lately because, you know, we'll release them and then I won't listen to them for a while just to remind myself, like, God, we're great.
So
we're
great.
hilarious.
So funny.
And I had talked about how I thought at first that my cats were not bonded like they said they were. Turns out they are. They are bonded often through anger. They like to fight, but then they like to lick each other and, you know, cuddle. So it's some weird sisterly stuff, but there's a lot of anger is the first thing that we saw. But then there's some sweet love behind it.
Oh.
So I don't really know what my point for that was, besides just to bring up the cats.
Yeah.
Say, hey, they're still here. Podcats are still here.
Podcats are still here, loving life, and I like it. And if they're bonded in anger, so be it.
Yeah, I am routinely waking up in the middle of the night to hear like a Thunderdome situation where they are just, there's hissing and there's swatting, and then I sort of rouse up and I see a cat just zooming around. And a 20-pound cat just zooming around, that's quite a sight.
That is. I feel obliged to tell you that the American way would be to exploit that anger and sell tickets to the Thunderdome.
Oh my God, you're right. Yeah.
So, something to think about.
Something to think about. I mean, for a while, I was having the Feral Cat Fight Club out front.
You were.
Which I never did sell tickets to that. I should have. That would have been
At
good
least to
entertainment in a
cover
pandemic.
Cover your, expenses.
Yeah. Yes. Agreed. Missed opportunity.
Yeah, really.
But man, our picks.
Woo.
No missed opportunities here.
Nope.
So my fiction pick is, I just finished this like a week ago.
Oh.
It's relatively hot off the presses from 2020. It's called Under the Rainbow by Celia Lasky.
Oh.
And Big Burr is a small town in Kansas, and it's been named the most homophobic town in America.
Whoa, how does it get that title?
You find out.
Okay.
So a group of LGBTQ activists moved to Big Burr for 2 years with the goal of living and working in the community and hopefully changing hearts and minds. How crazy. Like, I mean, imagine just moving right into the belly of the beast. And there you go.
Wow.
So
respect
terrific
already. Wow.
Terrific setup for a novel.
Absolutely.
And the
I
structure.
forgot this is fiction. I was like, I was thinking these people are real.
I mean, but it feels real, right?
Yeah,
like
it seems like someone said, sorry. Wow. That was, I got real lost there for a second. That was unfortunate.
This did not actually happen as far as I know.
Okay. I was like, really? How did the city get named that? I'm so sorry. All right. I'm going to rein it back in and just listen to the story.
Oh, okay. Well, so the setup's great. The
Yeah.
structure is even better because it's basically a novel of short stories, connected short stories.
cool.
You meet characters from the town and from the task force. And so you're getting all sorts of political beliefs, all types of people. But what I really love about this is it's sort of pushing past what you might anticipate into who these people really are, why they say and do the things they do. So it's funny because when I first started this, the two voices, the two sort of stories that I read first were the characters that I definitely liked the least. And I almost didn't keep reading because I just wasn't in the headspace to read about people
sure.
I didn't like.
Right.
You know?
I understand that.
But so I almost put the book down, but I did not. And I'm so glad I didn't because, well, the first voice is the daughter of two lesbians that one of them had moved here for the task force. And so the daughter's used to living in LA, used to just seeing the modern world, but then moves to Big Burr and is, faced with this almost like step back in time and trying to figure out how she fits to the point of sort of not admitting who her family is.
Right.
The second is a Christian conservative woman who takes this task force presence and this billboard that they put up as like a personal affront. So when I first read it, I was almost like, these are sort of stereotypes. I don't know if I'm going to, get into this. But then you meet Linda, who is a mom who's recently lost her son in a car accident. And she finds that the only people she can handle being around are these strangers in this task force because they're not talking to her about, they don't remember her son. They don't they're not, trying to remind her of who she was. They are accepting this woman that she is now. You meet Gabe, who is a closeted gay man who he's like 45. He's trying desperately to avoid looking at Grindr while he's out hunting so that he can keep his wife, keep his son, keep his normal life. And you meet Harley, a non-binary person who's living in this small town and dodging questions left and right of like, what are you? Who are you? What is this kind of thing? So I chose, there's lots more characters too.
Yeah.
And I chose for this theme because I think the idea behind this sort of 2-year experiment is this group of people who won't back down from this potential fight to almost a dangerous extent of actually moving to this town and trying to change hearts and minds. And I think that some of the people that won't back down from their rigid beliefs and practices, if they did, it could give them greater joy and fulfillment in their life, as you see in some cases. But some of them are just clinging so tight to what they think they believe and what they think is right to their misery, honestly. But where it gets really interesting and poignant is when you get past this sort of warring mindset and just have people meeting people and just, living life and starting to be around these people regularly and realizing, oh, they're not terrifying. Oh, they're not, exactly who I thought they were. So I think it's a super satisfying read. Each new chapter story builds towards this overall revealing picture. It's really, really touching. I enjoyed it very much, even though it is a novel. As you almost forgot at the beginning.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds so realistic that would actually be. I mean, you had me. Yeah. No, it sounds great, though. I don't think I'd heard of that prior to you
I just I went book shopping for the first time since all this crap started on my birthday, and it was not as a relaxing experience as it usually is.
Yeah.
So I kind of picked the first few books that I liked and got the hell out.
Yeah.
And I'm glad I did, though.
Yeah. Yeah, that's important. Gets little injections of normal.
Yes.
I got you. Well, I went way, way back on this one.
Okay.
To the way, 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 way back.
Okay.
1892 way back.
Whoa, that's way back.
The Yellow Wallpaper and Other Stories by Charlotte Perkins Gilman.
Oh, my.
I know, right? This collection, this particular one that I'm talking about, it has 7 of her best. It's best known by the 1892 title of this collection, The Yellow Wallpaper. And let me tell you, this collection holds. Like,
from 1892.
Like, I mean, wow.
Okay.
This woman was amazing.
Nails it.
Yeah. So all of her stories, in my opinion, are about women that are not backing down. Now, whether or not their end is what they want it to be or how they hoped it would be is really immaterial to the fact that they're not backing down in these stories. The title story, The Yellow Wallpaper, is actually following a woman's kind of descent into madness, basically at the hands of her very ultra controlling husband. And the yellow wallpaper is very much a symbol for everything around her in this life. And it is gripping. There's a little bit of almost like a terrifying element to it. There's almost some humor in there. It is. But ultimately the story is, look, I know just because I'm a woman doesn't mean I don't have a voice, doesn't mean that what I have to say about this doesn't matter. It does matter. And for 1892.
Yeah, it's major.
Major. But what's kills me is that it's still important today. It's 2020 and we're still here.
Still fighting some of these same fights.
Yes. I first encountered this particular volume in college. It was assigned in a class, and I still return to it every now and again because I love it. And it's a classic that I need. We talk a lot about classics that maybe we wouldn't necessarily need to teach everyone.
Yeah.
This is a great example of something that could be put in and taught to everyone, and they could benefit from it because it has so much to say about standing up for yourself, finding your voice. She wrote over 200 stories. in her lifetime. These are just 7.
Lord.
Yeah. So she had a lot to say and was not going to be stopped. And so even the author herself, in my opinion, is a woman who wasn't backing down.
Yeah.
Who had a lot to point out. It's a very thin volume. I mean, the yellow wallpaper, the story itself is like 17 pages. Mm-hmm. But I'm not going to say that you read it quickly because every page feels sort of like this really important lesson almost. Mm-hmm. So it's something you can sink your teeth into. And especially if you are kind of in that mode of short stories and you like that, this is really going to, I think, speak to you in that element. But it's also not so long that it's going to feel like you're slogging your way through a English literature class.
Yeah.
Like it's worth it. If you haven't read it, it's not hard. It's not outside of anybody's ability. It's just some really good stories about saying, no, I'm not backing down. So there you have it.
The more we keep saying that, the more Tom Petty's voice is going in my head. I won't back down.
I won't.
I'm not going to do it.
I won't. I'm not ready to make nice. Charlotte Perkins Gilman, not making nice.
Not making nice.
No.
I imagine she never did.
No. I imagine she took a lot of flack for not making nice.
Jesus, yeah.
So
this was almost 30 years before women could vote.
Right?
Damn it.
Yeah. I mean, think about that
Yeah.
and what she was including in there. I mean, it is. There's another story about a woman who lost her husband, and this other man is trying to marry her because she owns like a it's like, I want to say bed and breakfast, but that's, like a hotel in that day and age. And he wants to control it. So he thinks by marrying her, and he's always kind of had a thing for her, and she's refusing. Like, she's elderly and she wants to retire, but she's like, no, I'll keep having boarders until the day I die because I will not marry you to let you have this property. Not backing down.
Get it, Charlotte Perkins Gilman?
Gilman. I got so much respect for you, Charlotte. Yeah. So.
Wow. Mm-hmm. Well, this is now actually a nonfiction book
that
I'm going to talk about. And this is called...
Apparently I completely forgot our format in episode 71.
It's okay. We're keeping it fresh. And your brain just couldn't handle that we were talking about fiction first.
Yeah, I think maybe because I knew my first pick was like, it's fiction, but it's short stories. It's kind of another genre.
Yeah. Okay.
So
gotcha.
Maybe...
Because you were blurring the lines. You thought I was blurring the lines, but I am sticking to our format.
No, and not Robin Thicke blurring the lines.
Not rapey blurring the lines.
No,
not going there.
No.
Okay.
Did I just watch live sex on MTV blurring the lines, but just like normal blurring the lines.
Oh boy, I don't know where to go from there, so I'm just going to go into my pick.
Right into the pick. All right.
So my other genre pick is called Just Mercy by Brian Stevenson. Did you read this one?
Yes. Yeah. This is...
And I have not just this book. I also recommend some supplementary material with this towards the end.
All right.
So the book, though, is a memoir by Brian Stevenson from 2014. And Brian was a law student when he first worked with an organization in the South providing defense to death row inmates. And the experience was just life-changing. So after that, he decided that he was going to move south and he was going to found this organization dedicated to supporting death row inmates. So he does this. He founds the Equal Justice Initiative, which is a nonprofit law office in Montgomery, Alabama, dedicated to defending the poor, the incarcerated, and the wrongly condemned. So the book tells his story and how he developed the organization, but it also talks about some of the death row inmates that he works with, who are usually Black men that were sort of railroaded into where they are now. Mm-hmm. And there's this big through story throughout the book of Walter McMillan, who is a man accused and convicted of murdering a white woman, even though he was another place where like dozens of people say that he was, and there's absolutely no evidence except for a convicted murderer that sends him to death row. So there's that story, but Brian also talks about some of the other work that the organization does, like trying to end the practice of sentencing teenagers and children to life sentences, which I knew nothing about and was utterly horrified by.
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's bad.
So I think I chose this for this theme because he and the EJI are sort of the epitome of not backing down. Mm-hmm. With every case that he takes on, and especially Walter's case, Brian and his staff, they face huge pressure to drop the whole thing. They're getting pressure from local law enforcement, from judges. They get evidence taken away or blocked. They get denied again and again for motions that would grant retrials. And as much as the evidence may show that his clients are either not guilty or were not granted the full extent of justice that they should be, the system pushes back. So it's inspiring as hell, but it's frustrating as hell too. It is so sort of just, how in the world is he able to stand up to this monolith of our system? And how is our system this terrible? I think it's also, what I alluded to was it's a great resource for understanding the deep, deep flaws of our system and how much systemic racism is really built into it. I think Brian is a great writer. I love the way that this is structured, that there's this sort of through story, but then there's different topics that he sort of faces and has come to understand more over time. I think he's a very inspiring voice, but he's also human too. He talks very much about how much sacrifice in his personal life he gives in order to follow this through, to dedicate himself to this cause. And so the supplements that I recommended was, one, the movie Just Mercy.
Yeah, I haven't seen it.
It's really good, and
Okay.
it focuses specifically on that Walter McMillan case.
Okay.
So
That's
it
kinda what I
stars,
gathered,
yeah,
but
it stars Michael B. Jordan
Girl, wonderful.
as Brian Stevenson and Jamie Foxx as Walter McMillan.
That's right.
It's really well done. You'll see, especially if you read the book, that as is the way with many movies, some of the situations are kind of condensed into this story that may actually have happened in other cases.
Gotcha.
But it's fantastic. It's really powerful and frustrating as hell too, but really well done. And also, there's a documentary on HBO called True Justice that follows Brian and the Equal Justice Initiative.
Oh.
And it talks to him more about his life, about building that organization, and his major mission of creating a lynching museum, which they eventually do. They build this museum that is dedicated to named and nameless lynching victims from over time.
Oh my
which is
God.
incredible because there's never really been an organized effort to do this.
No.
So it's given a lot of families a place to sort of feel like they're being recognized and being acknowledged. And it's a really powerful part of that show.
Wow.
So you get 3 in 1
That is an amazing
in my
pick.
picks today.
That is amazing.
And all of them not backing down.
Not doing it.
Not doing it.
Will not do it. Mm-mm. All right.
Before we get started, though,
Yeah.
you read Just Mercy. Anything
Yes.
else that you
No,
would say from
nailed
that?
it. Yeah,
Okay,
It's incredible. It's a very, very powerful book, I thought. And I haven't watched the movie for that reason. I'm really bad about that. That is a sticking point for me, is that when I'm really connected to the book, I struggle sometimes to make that leap to screen. So I haven't, but now I think I will.
I think you find that it's really, especially the way that Michael B. Jordan sort of takes on the character of Brian, I think you'll find a lot to like there.
Okay.
And he's nice to look at, too.
Michael B. Jordan is a delight.
He is a delight.
He's a delight.
And he's a good actor.
He is. That's very
Yeah.
true. Well, when I was thinking about this theme and thinking about what I was going to do for the other genre pick, and maybe particularly this week in my business life, I was reminded of some things that I find difficult about sometimes being a female in the business world and sometimes just existing in the business world, male or female. And one of the things that I think is difficult specifically for females is, and we talked about this sort of at the beginning, how do you stand up for yourself and be tough without losing what makes you you? I am by nature not a confrontational person. I'm by nature not the type of person that thrives in those situations. I consider myself to be somewhat soft-hearted. So how do I stand up for myself and project a strong image without losing that part?
Yeah.
Because sometimes I feel like you have to shut that down almost to be able to do that. So I was thinking about business books I've read because it was relating to me in the business sense. And what I realized is I kept going and going. And I'm like, no, yeah, that one was good for this, but no, nobody was hitting on how I was feeling. And then I remembered Daring Greatly, How the Courage to be Vulnerable Transforms the Way We Live, Love, Parent, and Lead.
Brene Brown?
By Dr. Brene Brown.
Boy.
And then I was like, and that's it right there. That is the business book that everyone needs. So I've read lots of business books. Some of them are great. I'm sure that I'll go on to recommend different ones at different
Absolutely.
times. But this one, to me, is at the heart of what not backing down is. It is being able to take a stand and explaining why it's important to you, which is always more effective. So the main premise of this book, it was published in 2012, and you very well might have heard of her. I mean, she's everywhere, and she's written a lot of great books. But this one is really about embracing vulnerability and imperfection so that you can engage and you can explain and you can help lead and help others see, which to me is actually the ultimate form of not backing down. You're not, like I mentioned, just being so divisive about an issue and saying, this is how I feel and everyone should feel that way. You're really doing the work and unpacking your own feelings about it to do a gut check and make sure you're understanding it from your own perspective, but also how you can bring other people in by sharing that, by sharing your experiences, by being open and vulnerable and raw, and how that draws people in and is actually a more effective way to lead than just dictatorship of this is what it is and you'll like it or leave kind of thing. So I like that a lot of what she has to say, standing up for yourself doesn't mean that you have to be hard or unfeeling by any means. In fact, great leaders actually do the opposite. They feel very deeply and they look at things very pragmatically because of that, because they understand that it's humans on every side of every issue. Regardless of whether you're on the opposite side of someone, that's still a human being that deserves a level of respect. She has a very approachable, easy to relate to writing style that the book almost felt like it was specifically written for me. Like when you're going through
Isn't
it.
that amazing
That
she can write in that way?
Yeah, because I have to
invites
imagine
you in.
everyone
Oh,
has
for
that
sure.
feeling when
Yeah.
you're reading. I mean, it just hits at some of those things. And to me, it's a really great antidote because a lot of the business books, and even ones that I love, are written by men. And they're about, well, this is what you do, and this is what you do, and this is what I did, and these are my accomplishments. And that has a purpose. I'm not saying it doesn't. But it also does a disservice. And this to me is a great example of how it does a disservice, is that we're not talking about being a human
Right.
and doing a job, which is what we all are.
Yes.
So that's why I picked it, because I needed it this week, to be honest.
Well, two things. One, I remember that this book was actually recommended by my therapist back in the day.
Oh,
because I think and I'm sure she recommended it to other people as well, like us, and maybe to a lot of women, because I was having a real hard time learning how to be open and vulnerable and all of the things that you're supposed to be as a human, with dealing with this shitstorm of a world and all of the terrible things that can happen to you on an interpersonal level, on a social level, everything.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I think not just us avid readers, but healthcare professionals, they are seeing the benefit of this. It's interesting though that I've never heard about this in a business context, and that's fantastic.
Yeah, I think that that's one of its primary places it would shine, in my opinion, and it's what we need more of in business. I understand business principles. I understand that a lot of times, you're working for a profit and things like that. I get it. I totally understand it. But I also truly believe that there's a way to be an entrepreneur and a business person without stepping on people, without cutting throats, without doing things that you can't look at yourself in the mirror and say, I still feel good about what I do. And to me, that's important. And I think that this book really gets to the heart of that, is about leading and how you get people to see that vision without stepping on other people to get to where you are.
Yes.
Just about being you.
Yeah. And yeah, you're kind of dancing around this, but you had a rough week with some business experiences.
I did.
Yeah. What do you think was the problem with this particular person that you were interacting with? That he had not read this book? You think?
I think it primarily
Uh-huh.
he had not read this book.
Uh-huh.
I'm going to go out on a limb and say he did not like the fact I was female.
Nope, sure didn't.
I'm
and
gonna
you've said this before, but you work in a very male-dominated industry in a
Yes.
small business with your husband, and many times this has happened where
Yes.
someone discovers that you are a woman, and oh shit, the floodgates are open.
And a lot of people in this industry are used to encountering women in like a receptionist role.
Yes.
So they're used to being passed off. Like, oh, let me check on that. They're not used to a woman being the final decision maker and
Yep.
saying, no, this is how it is. And
Yeah.
this is what happened. And it is, It can be very inflammatory, is what I found. This particular person sort of went a little crazy.
Yeah, I would say
I hate
so.
to label him as crazy.
There
without
was a
knowing him.
tantrum.
A very big tantrum.
Yes, because you said things were going to be a certain way, and he could not handle it.
Couldn't handle it. Really, with no reason. There's no logical reason for him not to handle it. I tried to get to the logic, and then when I sort of explained why that logic doesn't work, that really set things off. I will tell you that this person emailed me 10 times.
Yep.
And I responded 3 times. The other 7 were unprompted and varying degrees of anger and shock, and
he tried to pretty woman you.
he tried to pretty woman me. He said I made a big mistake with his business. He basically owns the equivalent of the cheapest property in Monopoly that everybody lands on. It doesn't do you any good, is what I'm saying.
No.
You can't
So
pretty
you
woman
didn't
me.
miss an opportunity.
No.
You did not.
No.
But he tried to say,
Yes. And what he doesn't understand about me is that I have done this long enough to know that there sometimes to get ahead in business, you have to cut a client. And guess what, buddy? Snip, snip. I got no interest. Don't call me when your place floods, because I ain't showing up. I got your address written down. I got your name written down. You're on a list. You are on a grudge list.
But you and I were talking about this a lot this week because this was just so infuriating, and you were trying to figure out your best response, knowing that you were up against some stereotypes of what women should be and what women should do. He was very much expecting you to back down.
Absolutely. As soon as I think that's what happened is the first email had a very different tone when we were responding. The second email, I made the mistake of signing my name. And the female version of my name, it's very clear that, that there's not males usually that are named Aaron, that it's spelled that way.
Yeah.
And I think he saw it and he thought, oh, perfect.
Yeah.
I'm going to get this.
Yeah.
And
I'm going to talk her down to the price that I want.
yes.
and I'm going to use some real effed up logic to get there.
Yeah, and then when I didn't like that, that was infuriating to him. But I'm downplaying it now because I was very worked up because the reality is, it, just like we talked about at the beginning, I can talk a big game, but it's very hard to take those things on and not question yourself and go, okay, did I do this right? Was I condescending? Did I not explain things fully? Am I not doing this right? Maybe I should do some more research before I finally got in my own, out of my own way and was like, no, I
guy
know
is
that
being
this
a
is
dick.
correct.
Yeah, exactly.
But the other part of it that was incredibly frustrating is that there was another party involved that we work with that sort of just left me out there in the boat.
Yeah.
And privately emailed me and said, so sorry, appreciate you, all of those things, but chose not to defend me in front of this person.
Right. Because that would probably make him look weak, and he didn't want to
Yeah.
look weak in
Right.
front of the other guy. Yeah.
And I'm assuming he doesn't want to lose that side. He has a business part of it too. That's fine, but also really crappy because I wouldn't have done that. I would have defended him. We're just two people on the other ends of a computer.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not trying to get you. I'm sorry that something in your life feels that way.
Yes, like you're taking something out, obviously, on you.
Yeah.
And the fact that, he's not getting what he wants. He's probably not getting what he wants in other areas of his life.
And you are the scapegoat.
Yeah. So the other thing I did was a little bit of research because that's one thing that that's another thing when you cross me. I do some research. And he's actually second on the property in question to a female. And so then I was like,
it all becomes clear
then I was
now.
like, you know what? You coattail riding.
Oh,
That's
that
fine.
son of a bitch.
That's fine. We're done here, buddy.
Uh-huh. So he is
Move
trying
along.
to assert some dominance because he has
Move
none
along.
in his other life.
That's fine. You move on. I'll move on. Everything's good.
But you're not going to back down.
I'm not ready to make nice. Don't email me again. It's not going to go well. I'm not going to make this nice for you. I can tell you that.
Oh, I'm so glad you were okay telling that story. I wasn't
Yeah.
sure if I was going to ask or not, but
Yeah.
it was a good example, a real world example
Yes.
of this shit.
Yes. I'm not going to say that I don't dream now of the day when he needs our services and
Oh,
he calls and I get to say,
I dream
not
of that."
today, not today.
I dream of that as well.
Or I could just say, not ready to make nice and hang up.
Maybe the next email you just send the video over, you know?
Watch this video. Let me know
You'll
your thoughts.
understand.
Because I know you're going to
what's
email me
happening.
anyway. So let's make this constructive. Let's find out what you really think about some things.
To me,
it was
Let's be pen pals.
the quantity of emails just unanswered. I just pictured him like on the toilet, just like sending these. Oh, she's gonna get this one. Oh boy, she's really gonna hate this one. Oh, there it goes.
And finally, when I got some perspective, that actually makes me laugh to think that somebody was just like pacing around their one-room apartment, just being like, "Oh, I'm gonna get her so good. How dare she?" And
So I'm gonna send her 4 emails
Yeah.
in a row.
Did she delete it? She didn't even answer. What? She had to get it by now, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
I did
glorious.
get it, and I didn't answer.
Yeah, you didn't answer. Oh boy.
What you got for pop culture
Oh
over there?
boy. Well, first, do you feel a little better
I
after
do.
airing some of that?
I
Good.
feel a little lighter.
Good.
I feel a
This
little
was a
lighter.
shit week for you.
It was a shit.
Yeah.
week. Yeah.
Well, for pop culture, I've got something that I think will help us all through shit weeks.
Ooh.
It's a podcast.
Okay.
I've talked before how much I like Jamila Jamil.
Oh.
And this is a I Weigh podcast.
Mm-hmm.
So Jamila Jamil, like we've mentioned, she is an actor and an activist. You may know her as Tahani on The Good Place. Fantastic role, fantastic show.
So great.
Loved it. And a couple of years ago, she started on Instagram. She posted something that said, you know, here's what I weigh, not my actual weight, but my love, my, you know, success, my all these other things that actually define a person versus this freaking number on a scale. So that started a whole sort of flurry of activity, and she started this I Weigh account where people post their own pictures and say the things that they weigh that are everything except your actual body weight, because your body weight doesn't freaking matter.
Right.
She's personally lived through anorexia, through suicidal ideation, and she's become a huge advocate for all bodies, all sizes, all types of people. So big movement still on Instagram. You can follow I Weigh, and now it's sort of an online community, and now it's become a podcast. And so this year she launched this podcast, and it's very simple. She talks to actors, activists, interesting people that sort of talk through concepts and experiences that they are very passionate about so that we can all sort of learn. So there's some big names you'll recognize. She's talked to Billy Porter. She's talked to Reese Witherspoon, Phoebe Robinson, even Roxanne Gay.
Yes.
But there's some new names for me that have been absolutely, I've loved some of these interviews. One is Alok, who is a gender nonconforming performer who advocates for fashion for all and the idea of like degendering fashion. Like, you know, a suit doesn't have to be just for a guy. A dress doesn't have to be just for a girl. Why do we even have these ideas about what's masculine or feminine?
Right.
Fantastic. There's Stephanie Yeboah, who is a fat activist and model who talks about sort of the intersection of fat and black, how bodies are so much more regulated when you are both of these things. And Rachel Cargill, who is an academic and an activist who talks about, this was really fascinating to me. She sort of pinpoints the problems with white feminism versus sort of inclusive feminism. And true to my heart, being childless by choice and how empowering that is.
Yeah.
So tons of interviews so far. I think she's on episode 24 or something like this. And I chose for this theme for several reasons. I think that she and the people that she talks to, they push back against marketers and companies that say that only super, super thin bodies are beautiful and that only white bodies are valuable and that only like hetero bodies matter when it comes down to it. And she calls that shame. And I love that idea that she is very much anti-shame, that all these things that we're supposedly ashamed of have been taught to us, and it's all bullshit. I think also I like this because she is personally attacked on social media and media all the time. She has become sort of a lightning rod for all sorts of things. And what's great is if it's something that's called to her attention that she's actually made a mistake on, she will own it and she will say, thank you, and I am learning, and I have learned from this, and I will do better. If it's some bullshit about, you know, just stupid toxic crap, then she says fuck right off in a very public way. And I love it. And all of these interviews, I think it's a way for us all to learn more, to have deeper empathy about the world that we live in and the people that we live with. And as we've said before, empathy is something that's severely lacking in politics, in the world, in everything. So I think there's so much to love about this podcast and about Jamila, and you got to get on it. Do you listen to it, Erin?
Yeah, because of you. Yeah, it's terrific. I loved it. Yeah.
Have you had any recent favorites that you liked?
Nicole Byer was one of my favorites.
yes.
That was a great one. But I love her. I mean, she's a comedian and hilarious. So I loved the Roxane Gay one. Yeah, they're all amazing.
Yeah.
She's great.
I think the one I'm listening to right now is her her stylist, Law Roach, who also styles for Zendaya. But what she talks about is like when you get into acting and fashion, you're supposed to wear these sample sizes, which are like size 0. And she is not fat by any means. She is thin, but she is not that thin. And so she would never be able to fit into these things. So she didn't get the press. She didn't get all these things. So there's this super sort of cyclical, gross way of encouraging women to be as tiny as possible, or you're not going to have the success that you want to. Instead, this stylist, he was like, I don't care. I love women of all sizes. I will dress you. Let's do this.
Yeah.
And that's fantastic.
Which is great.
Yeah.
Good for that stylist. Well, I'm going to try and explain my pop culture prick without getting too upset and or crying.
Oh, my
Yeah.
goodness.
Because,
Here we go.
I personally devastated by some news a couple days ago. And so I'm recommending RBG, the documentary.
Yep.
By Julie Cohen and Betsy West. As we know, Ruth Bader Ginsburg passed away on Friday, September 18th. And I immediately thought of this documentary and what an amazing insight these women had into her. I mean, they were given unprecedented access to her, and you can see it in there. And what I love about this documentary is that I think it brings together this side that people know of her. I think they see an image of her and they think they know her, like, oh yeah, she's that Justice. But they didn't really understand where she came from, why she's so important to people, and what she did every day to just continue this fight. I mean, her whole life was dedicated to this cause. It was released in May of 2018. It went on to win an Academy Award for Best Documentary in 2019. To me, it's just a great explanation of a woman not backing down. And that's what she stood for. She graduated #1 from Columbia University Law School and couldn't get a job because she had a daughter. And she was told that to her face, that we won't hire you because you have a child. Now, her husband also had a child, but somehow that was fine for him. And as a female, I've encountered that. When I worked in a different industry, I had people that would tell me, no, we don't want to hire anyone that has kids, or because there's this idea that they're not going to be reliable or they're not going to be there.
Don't worry about dads.
Yeah. Unbelievable. So she went on to say, yeah, all right, then I'll make my own way. And that's what she did. I mean, she argued 6 cases in front of the Supreme Court before she became a justice. She won 5. Most notably, she helped help the 14th Amendment include women because it didn't. But what really speaks to me, and she says it in her own words, is that when she looks at discrimination, and whether you look at that from a female point of view, from a minority point of view, from everything that's going on right now in our world with racism, she said, oftentimes the people that say it doesn't exist are the people that are living it, are the people that are perpetuating it. So if you're one of those people who says these things don't exist, you might need to look at what position you hold and look around, because you're not seeing it from someone else's point of view.
Yeah.
And she talks about how often in her career she would bring that up and people couldn't understand what she was saying. Like, there's no discrimination against women. They couldn't understand that was something that existed.
Right.
Another quote of hers that I absolutely love. This was a few years ago. It was the case where they were trying to water down the voter suppression laws, which we understand are so important. And she was so adamant against not doing this. And her famous quote was, "That is like throwing away your umbrella during a rainstorm because you're not getting wet."
Oh.
And I mean, can you think of any more simple analogy that sums that up better? Like, easy for you because you have the protection now, but do you understand you're throwing away your own protection? You're opening
Like
the
it's
door.
going to, you're
That's
opening
exactly
the door
what
to
you're doing.
affect you. Yeah, absolutely.
And I mean, she's hilarious. So the RBG was a play on the Notorious B.I.G., if you know. after this documentary came out, she did some interviews where she was sort of surprised by this, like, she kind of took this, like, rocker status. I mean, they took the Notorious B.I.G. famous picture and put the crown on her head. And in an interview, she was asked, how do you feel about that? And she was like, well, we have a lot in common. And, like, the crowd just lost it because, wait, what? And she's like, I mean, we both grew up in Brooklyn. We both like to explain things in a very lyrical way. Like, she just went for it. And, I mean, how much,
that's amazing.
Yeah, you just have to respect that. And you know what? I mean, truthfully, what a pioneer.
What a pioneer. And I love the quote that you posted both on your personal account and then on Broads and Books, that, how many women
she gets asked all the time, how many women should be on the Supreme Court? And she says 9, and people are shocked. And then she said, but it's always been 9 men, and no one was shocked by that.
Right. So what's the issue there? Yeah.
Yeah, I just
love that.
I can't express how,
Yeah.
See, I'm getting upset.
I think a lot of us have been getting upset because we're very scared of, and we recognize the amazing power that she's had.
Yes.
How much she is sort of held against some of the tyranny that is on its way. And it's very, very devastating that she's no longer going to be helping. Yeah.
The timing is...
I know.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
But I also, sorry, you're going to hear my cry voice.
That's
so
all right.
enjoy it. I said, you know what? I recommended being vulnerable. So here we are. Here we are. But I think the other thing that has really struck me is that I've seen a lot of people since she passed say, you know what? We got a lot of work to do, because if an entire democracy
rested on one 87-year-old woman's shoulders, we are effed.
Like, she earned her rest. It's our turn.
Yeah.
Let's do this. And so that's, to me, very inspiring.
Yeah.
That's what we have to hold on to. And, it's not just because of my own personal views. I think she was important on the Supreme Court because she was so well respected. And when you have someone like that in a position of power, just like, Brene Brown covers, people have to rise to that. Mm-hmm. So it's not as simple as having a conservative judge who just says this is the way it's going to be. They have to really rise and explain it through legal terms to get it
because
by.
she challenged them to be better.
And
absolutely
that's
right.
really part of her magic too, is when you are that good that you make other people have to be better.
Well, my hope is too that, and I'm sure this is the case, that she was an incredible mentor to the other women on the court.
Yeah.
To lawyers everywhere, that could look at her as an example and rise to that occasion, and maybe see a path for themselves in the future. Yeah, and I hope that that's the case.
I do too. Her other famous quote was, when she was at Harvard before she transferred, they said, your nickname was bitch, and she said, yeah, better than mouse. Like, I don't care. So
for sure,
get it.
God, I want to be called a bitch by mediocre men, because then that's just a
then
sign of power.
You are
getting it.
You're getting it.
Sort of on that note.
Yeah, hit me with
it. Sometimes we've read wonderful reviews that we have gotten as, just a nice thank you to the people that have submitted them, as well as encouraging those of you who love us to do the same. We've also in the past suggested that if we get negative reviews, we might read them aloud.
Yeah.
And guess what?
It's your lucky day. We're not ready to make nice. We're going to read it.
So this review is entitled, Just Not For Me. Okay, fine. Okay.
Wait. Before you read it, can you tell me what the username is?
That's what I was just going to do. The username is all emojis. It is a cat emoji, a flower, a mouse emoji,
I think
another
it's a
cat,
tiger.
a
I don't
tiger.
know.
Oh, that's it. Another flower, a pig, and a sunflower. So this review says, sounded good. I tried. The books were interesting, but I guess listening to ongoing giggling and meanderings gets old fast for me.
Well, first of all, I salute you for trying. Because
obviously that's what you're going for by saying that.
Well, I was also told trying's an excuse for failing.
Ooh.
But you do you.
You do you. Yeah.
Secondarily.
Oh, yeah.
It's giggling that I think you and I are both hung up on.
I have really struggled, because this was back in March, and I have struggled with this one. And it's the word giggling and meanderings that really stuck with me. And I think, one, we don't giggle, we guffaw. We
sure.
laugh heartily.
Heartily,
There is snorting.
yes.
There is sometimes peeing. There is
Sometimes.
like some hardcore laughing.
Yes.
So we're not giggling. We're not little girls.
No.
And that's, I think, the point you were kind of driving at.
Right.
That we were
Yeah,
little
there was some
girls.
belittling there. And here's the thing. I love constructive criticism.
Yes.
If I can be better at something, help make me better. That is what this world is built on. I'm not going to stop laughing. Oh, like that.
I'm not going to do it.
And
In fact,
meandering is my whole life. So
good Lord, yeah.
that's
just who we are. And we've gotten many positive reviews to that effect.
yes, absolutely.
Also, I think you had an interesting point about the emojis, the username itself.
Yeah.
You were trying to figure it out, and you just couldn't figure it out.
I was kind of trying to decode it because we have cat flower, pig flower. Immediately, I thought pussy flower.
Right. Which then got us
Takes me a
thinking.
certain place.
Sure does. Mhm.
Also, the other thing I want to point out is that they could have given 1 star. They did give us 2, which I'm not sure if that's a guilt star, what that is.
Right.
I would encourage you in your future reviews to own it and just do
God,
a
yeah.
1.
Yeah.
Just do a 1. But also, what I'm confused about is that the language isn't very strong, giggling and meandering, but yet you felt so strong about it
that you had to write a review. Yeah.
So
I'm just confused, really.
I am confused.
Yeah.
I can tell you I'm not ready to make nice. I am not going to stop giggling.
Nope.
I'm not going to stop meandering.
No.
This is what we do.
That's
this
what
is
we
how
do.
it be. And guess what? The great news for cat flower, pig flower, and or pussy flower is
You're probably not listening to this anyway.
well, yeah, we're definitely assuming that. If you are, then that's weird. Now you're like hate listening.
Yes,
I don't-
why are you doing
that's
that?
creepy.
Stop it.
That's creepy. That's real stalkery.
Yeah.
But the good news is, yeah, you don't ever have to. You don't have to make us part of your everyday life.
No, you sure don't. So there we go.
It's our first one, Pete.
It's our first negative review. We've gotten lots of lovely positive reviews, and this one we just felt like we had to bring to you.
Yeah. And you know what? If giggling and meandering are the worst things I do, then
Oh, God. We're
I'm
doing
killing
great.
It. I am killing this.
It.
And if you like giggling and meandering, the good news is we're back every week.
Damn right we
Wednesdays.
are. And
In
until
your
then,
ears.
happy reading.
I'm up again. Same night, another dream. Before trying this recording thing, I didn't remember much of anything of these dreams. I didn't remember much from any of the women. And one night of doing this, and it's broken things open. The dreams they're in me, and they're coming out of me, and
Talk to me. I am not broken. I am the most whole, most real.
cause their despair. I wait for the word. Witch.
Look at the mad woman in her cage. She was a woman with holes inside her. That was the heaviest factor, the final evidence, the heart of the issue.
Somehow, you understand this. You hear me. Wherever you are, whatever this is, This isn't a dream journal anymore. It's not. It's just fact. Because now this is some sort of record. What are these dreams? Maybe there's a better question. Who are these women? Weird Woman is a Broads and Books production. All 9 episodes are available January 10th. Listen and subscribe to Weird Woman on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and your favorite podcast platform. That's WYRD Woman, wherever you listen to podcasts.